I guess I didn't raise my hand. First item on the agenda is consideration of the August 6, 2020 minutes. Can I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by member Chung, a second by member Beard. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? I gotta take a roll call. How do I have to do
Yes,
that?
you do, sir.
All right. I just call them down through this order.
Nope, I do it for you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. God, I'm so nervous doing this in person. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what to do when I'm doing this live. All right, so we're gonna take a roll call vote. So go ahead, Julie.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
member Went,
Yes.
member Beard,
Yes.
member Chung,
Yes.
member Wachinski,
Yes.
Chairman Erickson, will you be voting?
Yes, yes.
And I take it Ms. Bloomfield was not joined. I know Chung did.
No, yeah, member Chung is here. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is recommendation concerning bills and transfers. I have a letter here from the auditor approving bills in the amount of $2,516.95. Can I have a motion to approve? So a motion by member Went, a second by member Woolrab. Any discussion? Member Woolrab?
Yes, yesterday for our finance committee meeting, we had the bills, the detail of the bills in our packet, and I'm not seeing it here today. Hopefully we can get that for each committee.
I thought I
It's
said that.
no longer being posted out there by the auditor like she used to do.
Julie's looking right now. She thought she sent them.
Member Woolrab, I'm sorry. I was handling this for Phil Dick, and I thought I sent those in a separate email, but I will go back and make sure that I do that if you don't have them, okay?
Apologies if I didn't see them.
No,
So,
that's okay. It may be that I didn't do it too, so I'll take and make sure, okay? Thank you.
Anybody else, any discussion? All right, can we have a roll call?
Yes, you can.
I'm voting.
Thank you. Member Woolrab,
yes.
member Went, you see? Member Went?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Member Beard,
Yes.
member Chung,
Yes.
member Wachinski,
Yes.
Chairman Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, do we have an appearance by members of the public? I believe we have one.
I received one email for public comment from a Jeremiah Houston. Good evening, esteemed board members. My name is Jeremiah Houston. I am the father of the 5 children who were taken to the nudist pool by my ex-wife and her boyfriend. I am coming to you as a very concerned parent regarding this situation. There is a nudist pool in Danvers that is in an agricultural district. The owners of this pool are Martin and Wendy Streagle. They allow naked children to be around naked adults. As a father, I am highly concerned for my children's and other children's safety within the county. It is not safe to expose children to that type of environment at such young ages. In my opinion, this is how children get groomed by adults, and it is sick. Currently, I have a permanent order in place by the McLean County Court that my children are not to be taken to the nudist pool whatsoever. However, I am asking the board to recommend a fine and permanent closure of this nudist pool in Danvers since it is not properly zoned. Quote, a nudist club would be classified as a private club and as such is a permitted use in the commercial district and a special use in the M1 restricted manufacturing district and the M-2 general manufacturing district, end quote. The name and address of the pool are as follows. I can read that correct. Nude R Us Family Nudist Club, NFNC, 2649 East 1500 North Road, Danvers, Illinois 61732. I gracefully request the board to look into this matter seriously so we can save other children from being exposed. Sincerely, Jeremiah Houston.
Thank you. If there's going to be any discussion, let's wait till the end on that. Next item on here is items for action. There's none. We do have item 6A, items for information. Item 6A is first and second quarter reports of the McLean County Solid Waste Program by the Ecology Action Center, and Mr. Brown is here. And Mr. Brown, would you like to discuss that and take questions?
Yes, thank you. And so, yeah, these are just the outline of activities by the Ecology Action Center for the first half of the year, implementation of the McLean County Solid Waste Program and McLean County Solid Waste Plan. Obviously, given current pandemic conditions, we've had to get extremely creative in order to create some new outreach opportunities and educational opportunities to reach our audiences in the community in a safe manner, given that in-person presentations and events are not possible right now. So that is really a large part of our focus right now, is continuing to create new and engaging opportunities to achieve the spirit of this this program, while we cannot currently conduct our traditional programming.
All right, do we have questions? Any questions of Mr. Brown? Member Chung?
Thank you, Chairman Erickson. Mr. Brown, thank you so much. Again, I always appreciate the level of detail to which you go to in your reports, and I always find them very interesting to read. So I think one thing I was wanting a little bit of an update on was you mentioned in here the contacting landlords on the implementation of the multi-family recycling program. I guess if you could give an update on how that's going, or if there's, I guess, any sort of pushback, or if you're finding that most landlords are complying, if you can give an update on that. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. And so while that has taken a little bit of a back burner, over the past few months, given that the student population in particular that really impacted a lot of in-normal was off-site and back at their permanent residences until recently. Yeah, we did find there was a good amount of participation and effort to comply. There was still some places not complying, but yes, some education and assistance I think did improve that. I think one of the challenges on our part, so the Recycle Coach recycling information app that we've been using now for several years is address specific. And so as we've been trying to update that and to include the rental housing now in normal, since that now is should have recycling available on site, whereas previously that was listed as essentially directing those residents to go to one of the drop-off locations in normal instead. We've just met some challenges, as there is some variation between what the service providers do collect, the different recyclers and waste haulers, and even identifying which rental unit uses which waste hauler has proved to be a challenge. And even at some sites, we found that there could be multiple service providers serving the same building. And so there has been some confusion there. We have worked hard to still update the Recycle Coach listings so it is accurate to the best of our ability. So there still could be some work to be done on that end of things. As this semester progresses, we will probably be reaching out again and just trying to see, yes, how the recycling is happening at this point, once all the students are really fully settled in.
All right. Any other questions? Member Beard?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown. A question, and you touched on it a little bit here. With the change in how people have been working, through COVID. So now you've got these office buildings, which previously may have been a source of a lot of waste and recycling as well, that those streams are now completely empty and more switched at home. Are there things that you're learning, and are they things that, you know, hey, you're thinking about as we get into 2021 or going forward, maybe different approaches or learnings or whatnot from that switch away from office to home and the change that's resulted? I guess, and then more broadly or initially, how has that been, and what comments can you provide on that?
Sure. So we don't have any hard data on that yet, given that our annual waste collection and recycling rate calculations are done at the end of the calendar year for the previous year. And so within about 6 months, we will be working on that and may be able to derive some facts and some conclusions, you know, how the pandemic has influence those things here in our community. One thing specifically, though, I can speak to is definitely an increase by residents as they're doing takeout food from restaurants and all these takeout containers, which generally are not recyclable, and yet residents want them to be. And so a lot of frustration on the part of residents that they are generating more of this and can't recycle those. We do have a possible way to address that coming up here soon, and that we are looking very closely into establishing a food waste composting program that would be a drop-off based program that could then accept some of these compostable type food service containers. And so if more restaurants were to convert to those, then those essentially could be recycled, and that composting is just a form of recycling organic waste. So that's one thing we are looking into. Not every restaurant is going to transition that way, but yet that is an option to help address some of that increased waste that's being generated.
Okay, any other questions? All right, second item on the agenda, which is item for information, is item 6B. 2019 Illinois EPA e-waste cycling report by the EAC. And Mr. Brown, would you like to address that as well?
Sure. And so this is the first full program year report of the newer e-waste, statewide e-waste program that, of course, McLean County is part of through an IGA with the City of Bloomington and Town of Normal. The Town of Normal e-waste electronics recycling drop-off is now part of this official statewide program. This has, in my understanding, been very successful. There's been a few previous incarnations of this over the past several years. I believe this one is probably working the best right now over the previous incarnations, in that some of the other ones left a lot of loopholes in terms of limits on quantities of e-waste that would be covered by the program, and so excesses had to be paid for, you know, through other funding sources. And so this program does not provide any caps on volume. All approved electronic items that are collected through it will be recycled, and that cost will be covered by the program. So there aren't additional costs that fall at the end of the year to the local governments to cover. And so I believe this is going well, and one good indicator of that, McLean County actually is ranking 5th in the state in terms of volumes of material being collected through these drop-off programs, even outranking communities of much larger size. And so I think that really speaks to the commitment on the part of our residents, an interest in doing the right thing, as well as the fact that this collection site, the normal e-waste collection site, has now been in existence for nearly about 20 years, much longer than actually recycling these things has been mandated. And so just the long history and commitment on the part of our residents has really made this a success.
All right, thank you. We entered the twilight zone there. We all blanked out there. All right, we're back. Is it here? All right. Any other questions? Any questions? All right, seeing that, thank you, Mr. Brown, for coming. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item 6C, report on recent employment activities. Do we have any report or anything?
Thank you, Chairman. I believe, I don't see the report attached, and so that must have meant that there were no positions associated with this
That's what I
particular
thought. I didn't see
committee.
anything.
But it is listed in the report, so I
Okay.
apologize.
That's
But
fine.
we can certainly email the other committee, oversight committees that had hires from the last round throughout the last month. So I can send that on to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, item 6D, our next meeting is 3:30 PM Thursday, October 1st, 2020. And then we got item 6C, other items of information. The chairman of a committee has discretion to let a non-committee member come and address the committee, and Member Metzger is asked to address the committee. So Member Metzger, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to provide a little bit of update to discussions that we've been having about the wind project that's taking place in Chenoa, Lexington, Money Creek, and Gridley Townships. And still having some significant issues. Again, it's nothing y'all can do, just want to give you a heads up as to what's going on. There are continued to be violations, road violations that could be using the wrong road, no signage, improper signage, those kinds of things by the companies that are doing the work. And in Chenoa Township, there are $58,000 worth of violation fines that are still outstanding, and in Lexington Township there are 30,000. So just giving you that heads up, those have not been paid. The townships have to work through that, as you know. Also, I spoke with two of my constituents that live just south of the Mackinac River on the west side of the interstate, Interstate 55. They work for State Farm. Both families do. They've never had internet problems at all. They've always used a hotspot. That hotspot has been, it's a Verizon hotspot, and they no longer can get service. Obviously, that's a big deal because they never had problems. Even when everybody in the family was home, they've never had those issues. They now have those issues. One family, I don't know what the other family did. One family spent $1,200 and put up a booster, which actually is allowing them, but it's much slower. The signal is not as good. So there are some issues that need to be handled with that. I believe that the wind companies are supposed to mitigate these things. Supposedly they did a survey that said there wasn't going to be any issues. Those two families definitely have it. I also have another member constituent who lives more on the east side of that project. EDP started their wind. He has intermittent phone and rarely is able to get any of his internet. So those are issues that have to be resolved. And I don't know, and neither do they know how to initiate this. So this has been obviously a big issue and has just been, it's going to continue to get bad, I would assume. So any assistance that this committee or Mr. Dick can provide would be greatly appreciated. Also, still having issues with dust, as you could imagine. The good thing is they are at least in front of people's homes. They are making sure that that is watered very well. Unfortunately, dust doesn't just stay in front of your house. It moves as the wind blows. So it's better, but it's not it's not where it should be. So those are kind of those issues. I just wanted again to give a heads up as to what's been going on. Just so you all know, if you hear things are going great, they're not. If you hear things are going bad, it's not ideal. I can't say that it's horrible, but it's certainly not ideal. So that's all I have to say.
All right, well, I mean, Member Metzger, did you bring those for information, or did you want to have a discussion on them, or what was the?
I don't think there's anything anyone can do other than the internet is got to be mitigated. We've got to get that taken care of. So any assistance on that and the phone service, the other pieces, you know, the township stuff, just general information, because that's something the township, as we know, the townships have to deal with. They're not the county. Now, I will say we did have, I had two constituents, one that had really bad problems, hit a huge pothole on a county road, ended up breaking a tie rod or something. The county highway department paid to replace that front end on that car. Also, an 18-year-old young man was driving in the dark on one of the county highways and hit a huge pothole and shattered his windshield, and the county did replace the windshield. So those have been mitigated. But again, those are the issues that take place. And you know, even if, and I will have to say Jerry Stokes does a marvelous job of trying to stay up on this stuff, but you know, the people have to, they have to police it themselves, and that's unfortunate. So lesson learned, moving forward, we have to do a little better job to help the people who live in those project areas. So the only thing I think I would like some guidance on is where to direct my constituents to get their internet and phone services taken care of. So that's really what I need.
Okay, thank you. Member Went, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, on that nudist, is it a club or swimming pool that she talked about in that thing? Bill, is that within the scope of what can be a business? Is it a business? And does it meet any of our rules or?
Well, Phil would have to correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know if I'm right about this. I mean, first we have, I mean, he sent a letter into the
Are you on mute?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, there you go.
All right.
No, did we get an answer on that? Is that
Well, let
whatever is permissible?
me say this, George. I mean, I don't know if he has to file a formal complaint or what the process is. I mean, Phil, can you tell us if he has an issue, what's the process?
This nudist situation out there in rural Danvers area has been off and on for several years. And in the past, we were not aware of the fact that it was actually a club where they charge membership and that kind of thing. It was a situation where our inspectors went out there and we didn't see anybody nude, but it was reported that they were nude. It isn't really a zoning issue if people don't wear clothes at their residence. And this is a residential property in the ag district, and you cannot have a club on a residential tract in the ag district. You can't have a club in a residential tract in a residence district. And so what the Carlock mayor indicated is that it is a special use in the M1 and M2 district and a permitted use in the commercial district. Well, they're obviously not going to get that property rezoned out there. If there's a concern that his kids are going over there and visiting or with his spouse, it may be more of a DCFS issue as far as the nakedness, but the nakedness per se is not a zoning issue. The club issue is a zoning issue. If the concern is that they're having a private club out there on a residential tract, that would be a violation.
Any questions or comments? Anybody from the committee first? Anybody on the committee have a question? Member Wolrab.
Get back to Member Metzger's issue, and we could go back to the other one, I suppose, too, but just wondering if, Mr. Dick, you have any thoughts on that internet issue?
Yes, I first was notified by Travis Taylor on earlier this week about it. And it's something that we have to get the applicant of the wind farm, EDPR, he lives in the EDPR area, to address the internet and a cell phone issue. And that is something that we would address toward them. We've had other issues that EDPR had to deal with. There was a drainage issue where along one of the driveways or access ways to one of the turbines, that it was causing water to do eroding on an adjacent property owner. And one of the conditions in the special use is that along access roads, they're supposed to have them shaped such that water doesn't run across them and that they be shaped properly. And then on the upstream side, they're supposed to have seeded and that kind of thing. And they hadn't done that, but since we brought it to their attention, they have. So we would bring it to EDPR's attention to resolve this issue. And that hasn't been done at this point.
All right, Phil, the question I have, so there is a process within the agreement that someone can address that issue, or is there no process within the agreement that they could address that issue? Or does the agreement even address the issue? I don't even know if that, I don't even know if that's an issue too. Like the agreement's silent on that issue.
The findings of fact and stipulations are not silent on that issue.
Okay, all right. So there is a process by which a person could go through to address that with the company.
Yes, and this Mr. Taylor is also concerned about some water issues, and with that, I would begin to work with the health department. And Mr. Taylor has worked with the health department 6 months or so ago, and then I just became aware of it earlier this week. And so John Hendershot at the health department will follow up with that, and we'll just move forward with it in that regard.
Okay, Member Wojcinski, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was kind of wondering what the time frame was that they started experiencing these internet problems.
Did you know, Catherine?
When did that start?
The last 2 weeks, they had no problems. They had their entire family home from March until just recently. And that's when it started, just when those turbines started to, I don't even think they're producing electricity. I think they just started turning. And so that's when it happened. It wasn't because of the volume of people on the internet.
Okay, that is my concern, because we are experiencing that, as a nationwide problem. I think, I live in the middle of town and I've had plenty of issues with connectivity. So I just am a little suspicious that it is linked directly to the windmills. So I just don't know how we figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, my thought on the matter would be is that it's something that Phil has already addressed, that there's a process by which the person can go through to address it. Is that correct, Phil? And that's what they need to do, and they'll figure it out that way.
It's a little bit like the dust issue. They let us know, and we keep track of how many water trucks are out there. For example, you brought that up again today, and according to Invenergy, they have 6 water trucks on the road today.
Okay. Member Went, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, when she said the internet, yeah, we lived way away from that area. And lately we've had the same problem of the internet dropping and coming back on and being weak. So it could be a different problem than what you're facing with the windmills. But are we gonna, on the nudist
Yeah, I'll
pool?
come back to, I'll
Yeah.
come to the Mr. Houston's issue here in a second. But I want to make sure I address that. Catherine, did you have something you want to, Member Metzger?
Yes, I just want to make sure that these individuals do not have to bring litigation against the company to get this resolved, because that's not the intent. I mean, there was a study done to say that there wouldn't be issues, and now there are issues. And if they didn't have issues prior to these wind turbines starting, and now they're having the issues, and their kids aren't at home now. Their kids are actually in school because they go to Lexington. So it's just the two parents. Have to, this needs to be taken care of. And I mean, these people are trying to work from home. That's part of their job now. So, and also the only other thing I do want to correct Mr. Dick, Jeremiah Houston is not the mayor of Carlock. Rhonda Bear is. Jeremiah Houston is no longer the mayor of Carlock.
Okay. I think that Catherine, on that issue, and I could be wrong, I think first they're going to have to address it through the process. If Mr. Dick can tell me if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And then if the process doesn't solve their problems, they're going to have to retain an attorney to see if they have any legal rights. I don't know what else they can do, Mr. Dick. I mean,
I'd just like to point out, Chairman, that those turbines have been going much longer than 2 weeks. They've been generating electricity since sometime in March.
yeah, we
And-
can't.
Not the ones for Invenergy. The EDP
Invenergy.
ones were.
None of the
Then-
no Invenergy turbines are running.
I said they're not running, but the turbines are rotating now, and they weren't rotating ever before. The ones that are up are actually rotating. I was just up there today.
But,
Mr. Taylor is near EDPRs. He's not near Invenergy's.
all right.
Mr. Taylor, yes, but not the two people that are near the Mackinac.
All right, well, we can't decide here, nor do we have the ability to decide here when the internet went off and when the internet didn't go off. My only suggestion would be go through the process, address it through Mr. Dick, and see where that ends up first. I mean, I don't know what else you can tell anybody at this point. I think that's what we would have to do, and if that doesn't reach a satisfactory conclusion, then I guess we'll have to address it either here or some other venue. But I think first you'd have to address it through the through Mr. Dick and see what he can do first. I think that's the matter here. Going back to the issue that Mr. Houston raised, George, did you want to address that again? I know you want to speak on that.
Well, I just wonder if there's something we can do, because if they're running a club out there, they're in violation of the codes. So could we have the state's attorney check to see if they are? How would we handle that if they are actually running a club and charging for that? Then obviously they're in violation of our codes. So how would we go about getting that done? How do we handle that?
My understanding, Phil, if it's different, he has to raise a complaint with the department, doesn't he? Or what does he have to do first? What's the process?
Ordinarily, yes, he would send us a complaint saying that they're running a club, and then we would verify that and then send them a letter telling them they cannot do it.
The only thing I'm saying, George, this isn't a complaint to Phil's department. It's just a letter to the Land Use and Development Committee. So
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, yeah. Can Phil notify back to this guy that that's what he has to do?
Yes, I can do that.
Member Woolrab, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. So I'm just wondering if the individual if we're in person and the individual is in the room with us and requested this issue be looked into, couldn't Phil just look into it? Does this person have to go through this formal process, or?
That's up.
My question is this, is most likely what is going to happen here is they will quit having a club and they will continue to have nudist people out there. And I think the main issue has to do with whether or not there's child abuse here. And if there is child abuse here, treating it as a zoning matter is probably not the proper way to go about it. It's an issue of the state health department, not the health department,
If I may, Phil, if this individual suspects allegations of child abuse and neglect, they should call 1-800-252-ABUSE.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
And I think that's what the concern is that there's child abuse going on, and then they want to treat it as a zoning matter. But zoning matters don't get fixed very quickly. And if they're concerned about, I think he's mainly concerned that his kids are going to go there and be around naked people. And that's kind of an issue that we don't deal with so much.
Well, and I would just have to add that we want to take all complaints and concerns seriously. And if it's proper, I can reach out to this individual because they issued public comment and just direct them in the right direction relative to the zoning issue. We do not want to discuss and try to figure out why they added those other pieces of information into their letter.
Yeah, I don't know that we have jurisdiction at this point. I mean, the power to do anything. I think he has to file a complaint. But that's where I think he has to make a complaint, and then there has to be a resolution, and then we have to decide if we want to take it from there. Even if we would want to take it from there, I guess would be the question. Even if we would even want to take it from there. I mean, I think that would be the issue. Remember, we'll wrap.
So my question remains, so is there some formal process or form on the internet or something like that any individual would have to go through? Because as Member Metzger was saying, we rely on people to sort of self-police these zoning issues. So is there I just, for public information, my own information, would like to know. And if there isn't one, then this sounds like this could be two separate things, the possibility of a DCFS question and perhaps, this, a zoning issue. And can we just not start that up investigation now on the zoning issue?
I thought Phil had addressed the zoning issue, that there wasn't a zoning issue until there's satisfactory proof that there's a club. I mean, that's what I heard. There has to be satisfactory proof that there's a club, because as I understand it, and I will certainly be corrected if I'm wrong, okay? But as I understood the issue, there has to be evidence that there's a club, and right now he has evidence that a neighbor might, better be careful what I'm saying here, might be inviting friends over and might be letting them be nude, but that's his allegation, and so as I thought it, Phil, you'd address the zoning issue, and we can't address the zoning. I'm not sure we should address the zoning issue first. I mean, I think we should address whether he has a complaint first and let your department rule on it. That's my thought on it, guys. I'm just telling you.
And if I may, Chairman, I would have to say that we've received a copious amount of participation by the public via letters that Ms. Morlock has to read at the beginning of our meetings. And if we treated each of those letters as formal complaints, I can tell you that our county administration would have nothing but to respond to those. So if Mr. Dick has a process by which, if this individual has a zoning issue or a complaint relative to the operations of the Land Use and Development Office, and in his role as director can respond to those, then he will do that, and I can reach out to this individual and have him contact Mr. Dick. In regards to the other issues, we do not have a child abuse and neglect operation. We would always handle that with care and encourage the individual to call the child abuse and neglect hotline.
Yeah, I mean, there's some discipline. I don't know what we can do at this point right now. If anything, even if we should choose to do something in the future.
I think that the first start is to say that if this individual has a zoning complaint, that they contact
They ought to raise
his
it.
office.
Ought to raise
We
with
will,
Phil.
we
Yeah.
will deal with it within the context of our policies and procedures. We are always happy to do that. But again, receiving a letter is important. That's why we have this process. And we read the letters, but just the receipt of a letter does not necessarily mean the individual intended to file a formal complaint or request that we investigate it. And so we will reach out to that individual and direct them in the right way so that we can address our community's concerns within the context of our roles and responsibilities.
So my question still remains for Mr. Dick, is there a formal process that anyone can use if they have or suspect a zoning issue?
Phil, go ahead.
If somebody complains to us, we follow up. Is that your question?
Yes, there is. I was just liking to say the health department, if people have complaints, there's a form on their website that you can file a complaint, but you just respond to emails. And tell me how, can you please explain how that works?
Well, if somebody most of the complaints come through the phone. People say this, something is going on this particular property, and then we go take a look at it. This one is a little bit more difficult because we don't know that, for example, whether his spouse took the kids over there. Are they part of a club? Is his wife a part of this club? We don't know anything about that. His concern was that his children were going where there were naked people. That doesn't mean that there's a violation. We would like him to provide us some information about how this is a membership club or something like that. And if it is, then we will tell them they can't operate such a club there. And my thinking is that likely they will quit operating a club there, and they'll still be operating in a similar manner as they have for several years.
Thank you.
All right, any member Wham?
No, I was just gonna say that it's really in the hands of this guy. And if he suspects his kids are being taken over there, he needs to file with the child abuse thing. But on the other hand, if somebody does come to you, Phil, and say they're running a club out there, I suppose then we can take it up as a zoning thing, but we'd have to have proof that they were charging for a club or something, I suppose, to have a violation. So
Yeah,
I think that's where we end up.
I think that's where we have to start.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Member Beard, I can see you just want to say something. Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? All right, I guess that I already said our next meeting is Thursday, October 1st. I guess we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss